Wait till you see the video we're about to play. MSNBC host Joe Scarborough suffering a live meltdown after realizing the horrifying truth that he never wanted to know or even admit. Stacey Law, Liberty Writers News, gives us the background. Once again, Trump is winning. Yes, we recently reported about how Trump had led the RNC to raise $75 million in the first 6 months of 2017, but it's getting even better. MSNBC hosts are starting to realize it now, and it's just like watching election night all over again. Watch now, Joe Scarborough, completely detached from reality, claim the GOP is race baiting. The GOP is race baiting, and then come unglued when he realizes the truth. You're going to love it. Take a look.
And you can actually see it in the numbers. Of course, the Republicans, again, I think a lot of us are doing what we did in 2016. I mean, we spent all 2016, I'm not talking about you, but just around this table, talking about how bad things were going for the Republican Party, how they were embracing race baiting, how their policies were not positive or optimistic, and they ended up taking over everything. 2017 has been even worse. We're all shocked by what happened in Charlottesville. We're shocked by how inept Donald Trump has been as president of the United States. And yes, he has low numbers, but while you were talking, we were putting up numbers like cash on hand. The Republicans have $47.1 million cash on hand. The Democrats only have $6.9 million cash on hand. And you look at the money that they have raised in 2017, Republicans have doubled Democrats, $86.5 million to $42 million. In just about every case, it seems when a party is out of power, people get energized and they get focused, and you really see things change. But again, as we keep going, even Senate races, for some reason that I just can't explain, are breaking Republicans' way. What does that say about the Democratic Party right now? And
what it says about the Democratic Party, Joe, is that identity politics isn't working out too good for fundraising, and it's pushing people away from the Democrats. It also says that Dems are still so drunk on their own lies they can't even admit when they're wrong. So they're going to hold hands and just drive off a cliff like Thelma and Louise. Yep. It also says that the patriots that elected Trump, they're still excited about him. They're so excited they want to support him with their hard-earned money. The GOP now controls all three main branches of government. With the amount of money the RNC has managed to raise, that could continue for a very long time. Of course, we do want Republicans in Washington who will get things done, who will stand with the president, who will work with the Trump agenda, make America great again. We're tired of people like Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan who are simply whining about Trump and the expectations that we have for Congress. Okay? We're tired of people like Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan is a traitor to Trump. We want the swamp drained. Remove these scumbag elite establishment GOP roadblocks from our mission to make America great again. And if you agree with that comment, drain the swamp. Write that in the comment section below. Hit that share button so everybody can add their support in the comment section.
North Carolina. This is the latest in the fight to remove Confederate statues from towns and cities across the country. We have heard that on campus there may be more protests there this evening, so we're watching that at UNC, and we will be bringing that to you as we see what unfolds throughout the hour. So those scenes follow this from the Charlottesville City Council meeting last night, which was an intensely heated environment. Watch what happened in there.
Statues are coming down overnight in Texas. Lexington. We just had a murder and a Nazi rally in our town.
So the results of all that, the city's Confederate statues will be removed, but Victor Davis Hanson is warning that it could set a dangerous precedent. Here's what he wrote. When we wipe away history at a whim, why in 2017 and not, say, in 2015 or 28? we better make sure that our targets are uniquely and melodramatically evil rather than tragically misguided. Trace Gallagher, live in our West Coast newsroom with how this has spread coast to coast, sometimes in the dead of night. Hi, Trace.
Hi, Martha. You know, the debate over whether Confederate symbols represent hate or heritage is raging in a number of states. In Bradenton, Florida, the county commission ordered a Confederate statue to be boarded up, and that prompted dueling rallies where flags were burned, insults hurled, and even a few protesters arrested. Watch this. One side said the statue had been co-opted by white supremacists and needed to be removed. The opposing side argued the statue simply honors those who fought for their beliefs. Outside the Howard County Courthouse in Elliott City, Maryland, a Confederate memorial was taken down in response to the violence in Charlottesville. For the time being, the statue is being donated to a local museum and might be added to the County Historical Society's Civil War collection. In Columbus, Ohio, at the Camp Chase Confederate Cemetery, which early in the Civil War served as a prisoner of war camp, a Confederate statue was vandalized. The bronze figure of a Confederate soldier had the head torn off when vandals tried to topple the statue. In Baltimore, a 225-year-old monument commemorating Christopher Columbus was vandalized. A video posted online, which we cannot show you, has the statue being destroyed and a narrator who says that Christopher Columbus initiated a centuries-old wave of terrorism, genocide, rape, and slavery. In the nation's capital, the Jefferson Memorial appears to be
serious mental health problems, Virginia Tech, and there were warning signs and people didn't do what they were supposed to do. Okay, so how did Judaism ruin her life? It's amazing. Okay. Over almost 7 years and 2 serious relationships with Jewish men who at first said religion didn't matter and then backtracked and decided it did, I've optimistically begun interfaith relationships with an open mind twice, only to become the last woman these men dated before settling down with a nice Jewish girl. This is in the pages of the Washington Post. I can now say with certainty, I am tired of being a Jewish man's rebellion. At first glance, I fulfill the stereotypes of a white, Anglo-Saxon Protestant. This woman writes, I'm blonde, often wear pearls, and can mix an excellent and very strong martini. Manners and etiquette are important to me, and when I'm stressed, I often cope by cleaning. I do describe myself as a Christian, but loosely and in the most liberal sense possible, of course, because if you were really a Christian, then presumably you would talk about values while dating somebody rather than, I don't know, living with some guy for 3 years and then realizing that you share no values, and then he ditches you and finds someone with whom he shares values. It says, but if I did find myself falling for someone who did not share my spiritual views, I bring up the subject. If it's going to be a problem, I want to know. That's exactly what I did in my previous long-term relationships, both of which were with Jewish men. And both men said it wasn't a problem that I was Christian, as they considered themselves culturally but not spiritually Jewish. At the very least, they were the most lackadaisical Jews I'd ever met. They never fasted on Yom Kippur or observed Jewish holidays on their own. And when they traveled to celebrate holidays with their families, they made it clear it was an obligation rather than a choice. On more than one occasion in conversation, we laughed about the fact that I knew more about the Jewish faith than they did. I knew having an interfaith relationship could be complicated, and if we stayed together, there would be some difficulties, but I thought it could work. Neither of us were looking to convert the other. We respected each other's faith and culture, and as long as we were able to talk about it, I thought we'd be able to work through any issues that came up. And then she cites a bunch of statistics about interfaith marriages. She doesn't cite the statistic about the divorce rate in interfaith marriages, which is significantly higher than the divorce rate in non-interfaith marriages. So this is always the inconvenient part of the interfaith marriage discussion. You know, I feel this way about interpolitical dating. I was asked recently on a college campus whether a conservative could date a leftist. I said, you can date him, don't marry him. And I feel the same way about a leftist. Okay, if you're a leftist and you believe deeply in social justice, you probably don't want to marry the guy who's a deep devotee of Friedrich Hayek. It's just not going to go well. You're not going to want to raise your kids in the same way. You're not going to have the same social values. But again, this is what happens when you have a society that is very much focused on sex and very much focused on the surface of relationships, just having fun and going on dates and reading the New York Times together. But there's no real discussion of the kind of future you want to have together other than you want to have brunch on Sunday mornings and read the New Yorker. Okay, if that's your perception of how a relationship goes, you know nothing about relationships. But we're a society that has largely discarded the deeper meaning of relationships, which is rooted in values and purpose. Okay, life is rooted in values and purpose. You want to live a fulfilled, meaningful life? You must have a telos in the Greek terminology. You must have a purpose. The same thing is true of a relationship. Everything you do that is important in your life should have a purpose. If you feel aimless at your job, you don't like your job, you have to have a purpose. If you feel aimless in your relationship, You're not going to like your relationship. Your relationship must have a higher goal or purpose. You're building something together. On my first date with my wife, unlike this lady who apparently waits 3 years to discuss serious questions about religion because it might be awkward. You have to sleep together for a couple of years first and then have the serious conversations just like they do in the movies. On my first date with my wife, we talked about free will and determinism. Okay, first date for 3 hours. And then we talked about how many kids we wanted to have and whether or not we wanted to send our kids to a particular school or a different school. Okay, this is on our first date because we were dating for marriage, right? We were dating in order so that we would be pushing toward the next generation. The purpose of marriage is childbearing and child rearing. One of the things I find so interesting about all of these columns, there is never a mention ever of children. Never. That's the purpose of marriage, by the way. Because if the purpose of marriage is just getting together with somebody that you love and you want to have sex with and you want to live together, then you can love and have sex and hang out with that person without getting married. Right there, you don't have to build anything. You can just live with that person until it becomes convenient or interesting to move on to another person. But when it comes time to commit, people want to commit to people they feel a common purpose with. Okay, but that's not what this lady is writing. She writes about her tense moments in these relationships. She says one of their mothers, she's dating Jewish guys, one of their mothers was extremely overbearing, somehow getting my cell phone number and calling me, asking where her son was. I didn't know where he was, and her calling made me incredibly uncomfortable. I asked my boyfriend how she got my number. He swore he didn't give it to her, and I told him I didn't want this kind of involvement to be part of our relationship. When he talked to her about it, she exploded, yelling, if she were Jewish, she'd understand. I wasn't invited to the seders that his family held, despite my saying I loved attending them with my friends. There were times at church I saw couples worshiping together and felt pangs of jealousy, but I told myself every relationship had its problems, and these were relatively minor. Well, maybe it should have been a hint to you that when you were at church and you saw couples worshiping together, that could be you if you pick someone who has a culture closer to your own. There are important differences between...
People are wondering if the hospital really released her, or if they asked to keep her there in order to analyze her further to see if her injuries are related to another lingering condition. Others might wonder if Hillary Clinton released herself from the hospital so that she could fly back to America and be treated in a local hospital that's closer to home. Hillary Clinton is 71 years old and at the stage of her life where health conditions could change at any moment. For someone like her, that means the people on social media will become amateur investigators who seek the truth, look to expose information, and hope to dive deeper into the revelation of suppressed information. Hillary's sprained or broken wrist might just be a basic wrist injury, or it could be a lot more. It could be connected to any other injuries or health conditions, but people should not assume something until they find more solid information that provides facts. The facts so far in this report state that she has an injured wrist, but the assumption is that the hospital might want to keep her for a while to see what else is going on. Anyone at her age would probably agree that it's helpful to be diagnosed appropriately and to assure that there isn't anything else going on with a simple injury. If doctors miss something, then it could be an injury that turns into something much bigger. President Donald Trump has confirmed that the missing 33,000 Hillary Clinton emails have been found as the Justice Department makes progress in their relaunched investigation. On Sunday, the former D.C. Bureau Chief of Investigators Business Daily, Paul Sperry, tweeted a link to the New York Post article he wrote in which FBI sources tell him they have found the missing emails. Within minutes, President Trump retweeted Mr. Sperry's article in an apparent confirmation of the claims made. The NewYorkPost.com also reports for months now, we've been told that Hillary Clinton's 33,000 missing emails were permanently erased and destroyed beyond recovery. But newly released FBI notes strongly suggest they still exist in several locations, and they could be recovered if only someone would impanel a jury and seize them. In a May interview of last year with FBI agents, an executive with the Denver contractor that maintained Clinton's private server revealed that an underlying didn't bleach bit or bleach clean all her subpoenaed emails. Just one she stored in a data file he used to transfer the emails from the server to Clinton's aides, who in turn sorted them for delivery to Congress. The Platte River Network's executive, whose name was redacted from the interview report, said PRN Tech, Paul Cambetta, created a vehicle to transfer email files from the live mailboxes of Clinton Executive Service